Hello, welcome to Just Prime. As part of this video, we are going to understand the bean scope in the Spring Boot application. So when you are trying to create a bean or component, right? So how the scope, how the beans will be created, when the beans will be created, how many times it will be created, how to stop recreating the beans. So that we are going to discuss as part of this discussion. So if you see here, right? So there are 6 different bean scopes are possible, right? The first two are kind of a standalone one we can create without any web request. Also it's a kind of standalone one like a singleton and prototype, and next three are related to web request or web application one, and the last one is specially for WebSocket related one. So these are the 6 possible bean scopes available. The first two are a standalone one, and remaining three are related to web application. It's based on the web request. The object will be recreated, or it will be used existing one, or it will be shared. And the last one is WebSocket. So it will be created based on the WebSocket connection which is available on the web over application. So we are able to understand this one by creating a simple Spring Boot application. So let me create it. Okay, now I'm going to create a simple Spring Boot application with the Spring Initializer or Start Spring IO. It's a Java application and it's a Maven related one, and you can see Spring Boot version. And let me give Spring Boot bean scope. So this is the package name I'm trying to give here. So let me give the package name as same. So this is the package name I had given. So now let me add the dependencies. Let me add the Spring Boot dev and the web, Spring Web. So this is required to build a simple RESTful web services, right? So, and the build or dev tool is mainly required to just to reload if there is any changes in the configuration or code. It's a live changes. So these are the two is required, and mainly importantly we need a Spring Web, and this is additional one, Spring Boot Web dev tool. So let me generate it. Go back here and let me extract here. Let me paste into. So I just pasted over here, and let me import into Eclipse. So these steps we have already seen many times in the uh, previous videos. Finish it. So now Spring Boot application is ready. So inside that we are going to create a simple controller over here. So let me put here controller name. I'm giving my controller. So this is a simple controller I have created. Let me put here. This is my REST controller, and let me public string get name. So this is the simple API I just created to get or to test our changes. So let me return over here. So this is a simple REST API is ready. So first we are going to test The two changes were the bean scope is singleton or prototype. The singleton is the default one. If you are not defining any scope, singleton will be treated. Singleton in the sense, so the object will be created only one time, even if you are trying to create more than one time of a similar bean object recreation. So now let me create a simple class bean scope demo. So this is the one I am trying to create, or you can give my bean. So this is the bean name I had given. So inside that I am trying to create a simple constructor so that we can able to see how many times so this object got created, right? So this is the way you can able to verify your bean instantiation times. So this is a simple bean you can create. You can make this as a component. So right first initially I am not going to create any bean scope. I'm not going to define anything. I'll just come here, my bean. I'm just I'm just trying to auto wire this one. That's it. I'm not going to define any scope over here. I will just auto wire this bean, and there is no scope over here. So let me run this one and we will see how many objects will be created. If you see here, it got created only one object. And now let me recreate or reinitialize a similar kind of bean auto wire one more time. Consider this is 1 and this is 2. That's it. So basically what I'm trying to do over here, so here I'm trying to recreate two objects for similar bean, right? Now let me rerun it so that we can see how many objects is got creating for default scope. If you observe very closely, it is not creating more than one, it's creating only one. So that means by default it is treating as a singleton. So now let me recreate it. So by default a singleton, and if you want explicitly you can define that one also. This is configurable the bean factory. Configurable bean factory dot, and we can see over here what are the different types of scopes are available. So right now we are going to test the singleton, right? So this is the way we can specify explicitly the scope and the corresponding value. So now let me restart our application and we will see how many objects it will recreate it. So it's trying to create only one bean for a singleton scope type. Now this is the singleton example. By default singleton, or if you want to explicitly you can specify it. Now let me try another scope is called prototype. So this is another possible one is prototype. Prototype in the sense if you want to create one object every time when we are doing auto wire, right? So in this case this is very useful. So let me rerun the application and we can verify this one. If you see here, right, so it's it is getting two objects. Let me stop and retry because the port is already in use, so it's failing. If you see in your control, I'm trying to create object two times of the same bean, so it is creating two times. Let me recreate one more time also so that we can verify very clearly prototype behavior. So let me restart over here. If you see here, the object got created three times and you can see three times the constructor is initializing. So this is the behavior of prototype. Prototype in the sense it will create object how many number of times you are trying to ask. So that many number of times it will create. Whereas singleton it will create only one time even if you are trying to create the object multiple times. So this is one of the example for the singleton and prototype. So this we can test it without any web request. So the next one we are going to see the request. So request in the sense when we are getting the request from the user. So how the object will be recreated. So that we are going to test it. So for this I'm going to recreate another bean and let me comment it out this one so that we don't want to see more logs. So let me recreate another bean called my web bean. Finish it. So let me treat this as a component. So here also we have like you see the four different possible scopes are available: request, session, application, context. So the first one we will be seeing the request, and for this one we have to give the value the scope definition or scope value is so the web application context, and you can see the all possible scope over here. So the first one what I'm going to test here is simple one, request. So along with that we need to pass the one more proxy object that is called as a proxy mode. So why we need that one I will tell you. So this is required when we are trying to create, so like we said, right, so these objects are created to specific boundary range. The hierarchy is there, it's for every request, it's for session, and it's for application. This is highest privilege. So if there is a request is there inside the application, it should not create for every request. So that kind of scenario you will be getting an issues. So to avoid this one, stick to follow the rules what we have defined over here. So we have to put the proxy mode, otherwise you will be getting an exception. So that we are going to see it over here. So let me create a simple constructor over here and we can see it over. So how the object is creating how many times. So let me keep it over here. So this is done. So now come back to your controller. This is done. So now what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to auto wire my web bean over here one time at least. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm just doing auto wire of my web bean This is done. Now I'm going to create a simple method over here. Public get name. So return. So just fine. So just simple text you can write about here, and this we can call it in your controller, right? So you can, that's it. So now what we did, we just recover it. So we have created a bean and we have defined the scope as a scope request. So that means for every request this object should be created. So that is the main purpose, right? So now let me start this application and then we are going to see it. Let me start this application and we are going to see the, let me stop it. So if you see over here, your server is up and running under 8080 and no object is created, right? Because there is no request, web request. So now let me come back here and let me take the request app name. So this is a test. So if you see here, and I just sent one request and I can see it over here just fine. And now come back here, we can see the object is created. So I sent one time the request, we can see the object got created. Okay, so now let me minimize this window and keep it over here. I sent another request. We can see here how many times I'm sending the request, that many objects are creating. That means it's based on the web request number of times, so the object will be recreated. So this is the request scope definition. So how many requests you are getting from the web, so based on that many amount of objects will be recreated, right? So now let me retry without this, what will happen. So we'll try the similar one without proxy and we can notice this one. If we see any issues, let me restart the application. Yes, now server is ready, there is no error, and let me resend one request. So in this case also we are getting objects are recreated, but the issue will come when we are initializing this bean inside the application context. It should not recreate the many number of bits, so that time we are getting an issues. Okay, let me remove, I have not removed. Let me let me restart the application and we can see the behavior. We see the application itself, it's not starting when there is no proxy, because it is required, like I said, right? So that kind of hierarchy is there. So in this application will fail. So that's the reason it is saying the proxy is required, scope of proxy is required. So to avoid this kind of issue and satisfy the dependency, so we have to keep the proxy mode, otherwise we will be getting this kind of exception. Okay, let me keep it for further demos. Okay. now now we are clear, right, for request scope. Now let me check another one called session. So let me change this one to session and let me restart the application and we are going to see it. For session, how many times object will be recreated when we are sending the web request. If you see here there is no request, I'm going to clear the console, come back here, Send one request, one object. I'm sending so many times, but it's not recreating the object. So that means this is a one session, and for one session the object will be created only one time. So now I'm going to create another session with another browser or different browser, and then we can see if it creating any objects. So I'm creating another session and we can see different object got created. Send many times, so it's not recreating. So this is the way you can create multiple sessions and you can verify it. Now let me retry another session, but still it is not recreating because the session is. So if you want to test it third session, then we have to clear the cache and you have to try it. Let me try. So this is done. The cookies are stored, so it's not recreating the new session. Basically it is trying to track the the web related session, so it is not recreated, but we can see it, right? We tried two different sessions and it got created two times, so that should be fine. And now we will see the another one called application scope. So application in the sense when you create single request or multiple request or single session or multiple session, so in this case it will try to recreate a single object for all the users. So let me run the application and we will see it. So I just restarted the server. I'm going to create first hit, so one object got created, and let me run more objects. It's not recreating. Now let me hit or create another session and we can see it is not recreating the object. So this is this because this is at application level. You can create any number of requests or any number of sessions, the object will not be recreated. So that is the benefit of application. So request scope for every request, session for every session, application, it's one time for all the users. So this is the different scope level, and similarly the WebSocket also will work for every new from the WebSocket connection, right? So these are the different scopes are available. First two are kind of standalone one, and next three are related to web request, and the last one is related to WebSocket one. I think that's all about this video. If you like the video, you can subscribe the channel for more subsequent updates, and thank you so much for your time.